Alright, this is probably going to be a little bit rough, but I forced myself to finally start my YouTube channel for Apothecary Coffee Co. We are a small batch roastery based here in Cape Town, South Africa, specifically in the Joburg area. And we do small batch roasting of coffee of various different origins. Our most popular is our blend of life. So today I thought I would start my channel by just showing some of the basics, how we roast beans. So firstly, this is what the roaster looks like. I'll show you from another angle soon. And I want to show you how the beans kind of start out, a little bit about the roasting process, and then why we roast how we do, and then how they hopefully come out at the end as well. Okay, so now I'm about to roast a batch of Tanzania. So nothing fancy, no fancy backdrop, no typical orange and blue studio lighting or anything like that. Just wanted to show you the basic setup and how the beans look when they're raw. Just to give you an idea, these are green beans. They are, well, they are green and they are rock hard. They're literally like little stones and they smell very grassy. Sometimes there's a little bit of sort of caramel or chocolate or something, but generally they were just very grassy and kind of herby smelling. Okay, I'm about to load the beans into the roaster. So now the goal of roasting is really to bring out the sweetness, the body, the aroma, and kind of like the true character of the beans, without roasting the hell out of them and making them bitter and burnt. So that's kind of the goal. So I'm going to load these into the hopper at the top, make sure it's closed. It's about 4 kilograms. And I'm going to check my temperature. Okay, we're at about 96 degrees. So that's a bit cold, so I'll turn on the gas on a very low setting. And I'm basically just going to bring it up to temperature, which in this case is about 140, or rather 130, sorry, 130, different bean. I'm going to roast it, which I'll show you shortly, once it's at temperature. And once we're at just under 130, I'm going to drop the beans in. You'll see I'm looking there, that's because my computer's there with the graph open, which is monitoring the various temperatures in the machine. I'll do a full video on the ins and outs of roasting at another stage. Right now I'm just waiting for the temperature on there and on there to hit what I want, which I'm actually going to go for 127 today, so 127 degrees. This roast works, it operates a bit colder than most. And I'm going to drop it in. There we go. I'll mark it. Okay, I've now marked it on my computer. I'm going to close the hopper again, and from here on out I'm going to roast, which I will not explain in today's video. By the way, just a very quick kind of summary of how the physics and thermodynamics work. The whole principle is basically to drop the raw beans into a drum, which is constantly rotating, with a heat source below it. And that's all. That's the basic mechanics of everything. It's not very complicated. If the skill comes in sort of determining what recipe works for your beans. Sorry, I just realized I had to make an adjustment there, but determining what recipe works for your specific beans, which changes all the time depending on the temperature, the density, and so on. Monitoring it throughout, which by the way is also the sensory process involved as well. So we're sort of constantly looking, we're smelling, we're monitoring, we're trying to reproduce what did work, what didn't work, which I'll get into in another video. But ultimately we are drying up the beans and bringing them up to temperature and bringing out the desirable characteristics. And that's kind of the basic principle of it. But again, it's easier said than done. The skill comes in really with experience and really with tasting the result and with buying in and constantly doing that and not sort of resting on your laurels. And with that said, I'm going to focus more on my roast. and I will let you know when it's done. Alright, I'm about to drop the coffee, so I'm going to give you a first hand look at what that might look like. Here's my graph. I'll get into that another time. Alright, we're at 188. Let's drop. Isn't that stunning? Nothing quite compares to the aroma of freshly roasted coffee. Of course, I just almost burnt myself because it's very hot, but we let this cool for about 5 minutes and then I dump it into that bin. So if you're into coffee roasting, small businesses, or really just want to follow along and watch some guy make some mistakes, then yeah, follow the channel for more interesting videos. I'm going to add a lot more information in the next ones, and maybe, yeah, we'll get into a lot more of the details, but this was just an introduction for today. And of course, if you enjoy freshly roasted delicious coffee, then check out our store, apothecarycoffee.co.za, especially if you're based anywhere in Cape Town, but we also ship anywhere really in South Africa. Cool. Cheers. Hope you enjoyed.